On today's episode...
On a normal day in September 2024, Hussein Taini was playing at home in southern Lebanon when an unfamiliar noise rang out from his dad's pager.
So Tyler Robinson is the dude that shot Charlie Kirk in Utah. Allegedly. No, you're deep into these conspiracies, so I want to hear you talk all about it.
Mitch McConnell's proof of life photo. And I know other people have been saying this, but I haven't seen anyone talk about this specific program that you can use to detect things like Photoshop, and I'm pretty sure this image is Photoshop.
The system wasn't built for you to win. You went to school to memorize facts you never use. You were trained to raise your hand, wait your turn, and follow instructions.
They're out in the open now. They're not even trying to conceal it anymore. These people went to the same universities and fraternities. They're on the same boards of directors. They have like interests. They don't need to call a meeting. They know what's good for them. You don't need a formal conspiracy with interest.
I'm going to allow you to listen to these survivor stories of people who were not the intended targets. Take a listen.
On a normal day in September 2024, Hussein Taini was playing at home in southern Lebanon when an unfamiliar noise rang out from his dad's pager.
بس هيدا الرمي كانت كتير غريبة ولما جيت إنه حملتها قربتها كتير على عيوني يعني عطتني كلمة ايرور وسهم عشان اكبس اوكي إذا بدي اكبس اوكي انفجرت.
In another home in southern Lebanon, Sarah Jafal had no time to respond after picking up a family member's pager. She has undergone 45 surgeries in 9 months, with additional procedures to come, including reconstructive surgery on her face and fingers. She has lost 4 fingers in the attack, 2 of which are now fused together, and is waiting to receive a prosthetic right eye. While Hezbollah has admitted that most of the dead and wounded were its fighters or staff, the explosions also seriously injured many civilians.
Okay, so you should know that the pagers were rigged, as I told you, with PETN explosive. The intended target were Hezbollah operatives. But what I want to draw your attention to is just the trajectory of their injuries, right? So these people, they heard the pager go off, whether it was their dad's pager or their uncle's pager. They went to go grab the pager. They held it in their hands. And to get it to go off, you had to hit the OK button. Hit the OK button and it subsequently exploded. This is why it took off their fingers. In one case, it took off a person's nose because it means its trajectory is going from here to here. And in many cases, it took out their eye because they were looking at it. Okay. PETN, exploding, shrapnel. And of course, because of the shrapnel, they have cuts all over their faces. So we know who did this, obviously, because they were very proud that they did this. It was Israel. How did they do it? Well, they interrupted the supply chain of pagers by creating a bunch of fake shell companies and selling the rigged pagers to people who were affiliated with Hezbollah.
Yeah, this is a long one. I'm not going to watch the whole thing. It's like a 12-minute clip, but I do think it's really important to be aware of this. Why, morality aside, that's obviously one, but I mean, frankly, as Americans, who are we to judge? We've done horrible things all over the world. I'm not here to cast stones. That being said, it's important to be aware of this because of, I don't know if I'm going to clip this in or if it'll get edited out, but later in the clip, she talks about the supply chain and that's how they infiltrated these devices. A lot of people aren't aware of this, but Israel is highly involved in the supply chain of pretty much every American mobile device. Does it mean there are explosives in our cell phones? No, but it's something to be aware of. And the fact that a foreign nation who has a track record of doing this to other countries is now involved in our supply chain in devices in which all of us hold every single day, this should be concerning. It should be very concerning. Add that to the fact of the other instances of Israeli involvement or disruption of the American political apparatus, and I think you have grounds for a very, very problematic situation in terms of our relationship with Israel. And unfortunately, there is a historical fondness for Israel, I guess, shall you say. The boomers seem to not be able to let go or adapt to the new reality of this being a highly questionable relationship, and frankly, it's one that really needs to be revisited. I think that this is one of the biggest problems that our country is going to be facing in the next decade.
Tyler Robinson is the dude that shot Charlie Kirk in Utah.
Allegedly.
No, you're deep into these conspiracies, so I want to hear you talk all about it.
Listen, now the pretrial is going on, but this pretrial so far has more holes in it than Swiss cheese. So let's get into it. Has more holes in it than the Holy Moly Donut Shop. The prosecution's saying that he climbed on top of the roof, assembled the gun, shot Charlie, disassembled the gun, jumped down from the roof, ran into the woods, reassembled the gun, left it on a tree, and left the screwdriver on the tree. Prosecution has no video evidence of him with a gun. Okay. No video evidence of the shooting. One of the officers that was at the scene, as soon as he gets up to the roof, his body cam dies. I saw on a different podcast of an ex-CIA officer explaining that it would have took him a few minutes at least to assemble that gun. So you're telling me he shot Charlie Kirk. So he jumped on the roof, assembled a gun for a few minutes, shot him, disassembled the gun in a few seconds, and jumped off the roof. There was another officer that testified that between the shot and him jumping off the roof was only a few seconds in between. That also doesn't add up. Doesn't make any sense. There were neighbors around who said that they saw a bald man and 3 other men driving his car. It wasn't him driving his car. That's also very questionable.
Driving Tyler's car.
Correct. There was a conspiracy theory that one of the members of Turning Point USA, Charlie's group, it was evidence of they took the footage, and they were like, why would somebody from Turning Point take the footage? And then apparently they went on a podcast saying, well, I wanted to make sure that it got into police hands right away. There's a lot of sick people out there that might want to take the footage and delete the evidence. So it was testified in the pretrial that the evidence was given with a flash drive, not an SD card. Now, I'm a millennial. In order to get that information on a flash drive, that means you have to plug it into a computer and transfer it over.
Okay.
So raises suspicion to why the actual SD card wasn't given over. And also, the judge looked at the evidence that was actually handed over, and there were zooms, there was things that were circled. It was obviously botched and edited. And the judge was like, do we have an original copy of this? Like, why is this all edited and zoomed out and zoomed in and circled and stuff? And they were looking stupid. They had no idea. They didn't have the original whatever. So obviously, the evidence was doctored before it was handed in. Charlie's bones must be made of adamantium, like Wolverine. Because how is there no exit wound? He got shot with a rifle in the neck, and you're telling me there's no exit wound? Doesn't make sense.
This one is so wild to me, man. Like, I'll say this, like, whatever your opinions about this situation are, you're free to believe whatever you want to believe. What I find really interesting is the people who seem to be believing official narratives. Let me say this, official or unofficial, and let's divorce this from the Kirk situation. Anyone who believes anything so strongly that they are absolutely 100% convinced they know everything there is to know about it, and anyone who disagrees with them is an idiot, this, that, and the other. It's crazy to me. It's absolutely crazy. And you can see it, right? You see it in a lot of people. We see it in people we know who are just convinced they've got it all figured out because, they read Twitter a lot. And it's like, man, you understand how ridiculous this notion sounds to most people? Like, if you're not terminally online, and I'm also terminally online, but like, I just don't understand why people get so attached to narratives. I really don't. It's very bizarre to me, and you'll see it. And these types of people seem to have everything figured out. They know everything. They often don't have their own lives figured out. These are often the type of people who aren't the most successful people in the world. And yet somehow they know all the answers when it comes to situations like this. Situations like the JFK, situations like 9/11, situations, take anything from history, right? And they've got all the answers, right? Often these folks won't be as involved in the older stuff because it's not current day. It's not feeding their algorithm right now. So it's more, current day stuff. but they've got it all figured out, and it's the Muslims, it's the LGBTQs, it's this, that, or the other that's behind everything, and you don't understand, and I know everything because of Twitter. And this is just such a wild way to look at anything in life to me. And these people will typically always, anyone who's tied to a narrative in this way is often establishing some element of their identity through these narratives. And so if you disagree with them, it's not just an attack on an idea, it's an attack on their person. And they'll often respond very viciously through personal attack. And you see this with politics a lot. And I would say that it used to be, recent times, it was mostly the left that seemed to be this way. You know, Donald Trump was the big boogeyman. We were fighting evil and fascism. And if you disagreed with anything they said, you were a Nazi, right? Like, that to me is very indicative of you having your identity attached to your ideology. And it's extremely problematic. But you're starting to see that, I think, manifest on the right more as well nowadays. And I've seen it in my own personal life with the Kirk case. And I've had to cut some people off because of it, because it's like, whoa, you are off the fucking deep end, and I don't want to be involved with someone who can't have cogent, intelligent conversations about these things in a respectful manner. So that to me is always how a lot of these things manifest, right? Now, that doesn't mean that the conspiracy is true, right? Everything, Tyler Robinson could have done it. It's possible, right? So, but to me, in these situations, there's enough questions that haven't really been answered adequately that you should be questioning it, right? And if you're going to support the argument that, you know, Tyler Kirk acted alone, the official narrative is correct, then you have to address all these questions one by one, directly. Not indirectly of, oh, you're believing propaganda from Iran and Muslims and the Twitter, this, that, the other. That's goofiness, right? Like, okay, first address the ballistics, then address this officer, plainclothes officer who showed up out of nowhere and escorted the cop to the site of the shooting where Robinson supposedly set up. Then address how he got the gun in the pant leg, right? Like, you got to address that. Then address the people driving around in his car. Then address the finding the screwdriver. Then address the smaller caliber .233 AR-15 round on the other roof. Then address the paving over of the grounds, right? You've got a bunch of different things, right? And if you want to disprove, or if you want to prove the official narrative, you need to go through all of these questions one by one and tear them apart. And if you can do that legitimately, I'll go, yeah, all right, maybe it was Tyler Robinson. But typically, when you encounter these types of folks, they don't want to touch this at all, because it's not really about that. It's about what they read on Twitter, and I've got it figured out, and I'm smarter than everyone else, and I know how everything works, and it's the libs and the libtards and the LGBTQs and the Muslims and the this, that, and the other that is, you know, against me and my team. And it's about that. It's about red team versus blue team. It's the 49ers versus the Dallas Cowboys. It's that kind of goofy nonsense that, you know, frankly, these folks aren't really even worth engaging with on these topics, because they're not capable of engaging at that level, right? They only know WWF fake nonsense, right? And they can't escape red team versus blue team because it's their identity. And if you take that away from them, they have nothing left, right? They're not really comfortable with who they are unless they have that piece of them, because they don't have much else. And so that to me is indicative of a lot of what's going on here. Another element of it is obviously grifting, right? There's a lot of people who are being paid to push narratives, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the everyday people. We're talking about people in the comments. We're talking about your aunt, your uncle, your cousin, your friend. We're talking about the people that you encounter in the real world, not the grifting online influencers or the real online influencers, whoever you may be consuming content from. We're talking about real people here. And when you have these kinds of conversations, I think it's important to remember that in your head, that you probably shouldn't be engaging with certain people about these topics at all because they're not capable of it. And understand that when they do engage with you, if you see these types of behaviors, the inability to handle your argument piece by piece or to address any of the issues, to the personal attacks, the disassociation of your argument, meaning they don't even recognize the argument that you're making and they just come around something else. I saw on Twitter, it's Iranian propaganda, it's this, that, or the other. That's clear indication of someone who's not capable of having real world debate. And I see a lot of that in the Kirk case. And I think it ultimately comes back to something that we're witnessing more and more in politics, something that frankly has been known for a long time. George Carlin said it a long time ago, when your ideology becomes your identity, it's a problem. And we're seeing that more and more, unfortunately, and understanding that it's a phenomenon to be aware of, and learning how to navigate it will help you in your personal life, I think.
Okay, I'm really not trying to go all like conspiracy theorist here, but I need to talk about something really fast to do with Mitch McConnell's proof of life photo. And like, I know other people have been saying this, but I haven't seen anyone talk about this specific program that you can use to like detect things like Photoshop. And I'm pretty sure this image is Photoshop. The site is called photoforensics.com. And if you select the ELA analysis option on the drop down menu, it'll give you like this sort of graph of the image. And it's like, I think it's checking like the contrast levels. And for reference, I'll put in this image I took of myself yesterday, which obviously isn't digitally altered at all. And this is what it's supposed to look like. Everything that is like the same sort of like value, color, like it's supposed to show up similarly in the scan. So like my hair is blending in with things in the background because the value is like similar enough. And when you compare it to this, the outlines, like their outlines, especially like her outline and the fucking outline of this hospital bed, are brighter, which makes me think that like that part of the image was like cut out. That part of the image is digitally altered compared to the rest. The contrast is different. Also, there's some weird stuff happening around his fingers on the newspaper. That just doesn't look right. That just doesn't look right. And also, why is the edge of the picture rounded? So yeah, I'm pretty sure they're just trying to like play it off, like faking that he's still alive for the next month because they want to avoid the special election. And then after that time period has passed, they're going to be like, oh no, he had a turn for the worst again and he's actually dead. And I've also seen people say that the picture of Mitch McConnell is an old image that was used in like 2023 when he was in a rehab center, because he's been like, you know, on his deathbed for like a while. So anyway, what do you guys think? Like, has anyone used this photo forensics program before? And what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I definitely think it's possible that they're faking him being alive to avoid an election. I definitely believe that that is 100% something they would do. However, that being said, the evidence that she showed here doesn't really pass the smell test, in my opinion. Everything I think she showed, like the outline behind her head, clearly you can see in the image there's light. There's a light source behind her, which could be putting a silhouette around her in that ultraviolet spectrum. I don't know what spectrum that is, right? Whatever it is. So that could be what's resulting in the outline. Also, the bend on the paper, I mean, that clearly could be like a tray with edges. That didn't look anything wrong to me. So that photo, I was trying to look, you probably saw me during the clip, like leaning in. I was really trying to find something about that photo that looked doctored, and I don't see anything. It looked pretty legitimate to me. Now, does that mean that it was taken recently? No. Like she said in the clip, it could be an old photo, but it doesn't look to be edited at all.
The system wasn't built for you to win. You went to school to memorize facts you never use. You were trained to raise your hand, wait your turn, and follow instructions. Then they told you, get a job, work 40 hours a week, give half of it to tax, retire at 67 if you're lucky. That's not a life. That's a script. And most people don't question it because they're too tired from living it. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's when you realize freedom was never going to be handed to you. You have to build it. And that's why I teach digital products, because ownership is the only way out. No boss, no begging, no clocking. You move different when you know the system was never designed to serve you. It was designed to use you. Break the script or stay stuck in it.
Yeah, I 100% believe with everything she just said. That being said, what she said her mode of speech felt very scripted. Certainly felt like she was reading off of a script. So a little bit ironic, but doesn't change the fact that everything she said is 100% true. I agree absolutely with everything she said. The path to independence is through ownership, through equity. And unfortunately, the most impactful piece of ownership that most Americans have or had access to was home ownership. That was the vehicle by which the average American, I'm not saying it's the only one Americans have access to, I'm not saying there isn't other ways, I'm just saying for the average person, that was the most accessible of equity vehicles that the average American had access to. Or was able to build and generate wealth with. And sure, there's other, right? The finance bros are going to come for you when you start talking about this kind of stuff, and they're going to tell you this, that, and the other. Right? Okay, fine. I'm not disagreeing that there aren't other vehicles, that there aren't other ways, that there aren't other strategies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Caveat, caveat, caveat. Yes. Okay. Get it. Understood. Put that aside. Right? It's not about being right or wrong. It's about understanding that not everyone has the same tools at their disposal. Not everyone has the same level of intelligence. Not everyone has the same level of education. Not everyone has the same level of access to capital. You know, all of these different things play a factor. And the reality is, in this country, in any country, the most accessible tool for the average citizen is home ownership, right? You're going to pay rent one way or another. You're going to allocate funds towards a roof over your head one way or another. And while there are certainly arguments against home ownership in favor of renting, it doesn't change the fact that renting in no way, shape, or form provides you with any equity, while home ownership does. And there's certainly other factors to home ownership. I get that. But it has been traditionally the prominent tool to establishing oneself as a member of the middle class and being able to move not just yourself, but an entire family, a number of people, a network of people into the middle class and providing a better lifestyle. And that's being taken away more and more as the years go by. And this to me is maybe the number one issue in the political landscape, and unfortunately we don't talk about it nearly enough.
2010, I was selected to go down to the South Pole Station in Antarctica for an entire year by Raytheon Polar Services as an employee of a third-party contractor for the National Science Foundation. I functioned in a dual-role capacity as a tradesman and a firefighter. My responsibilities required me to be more informed than most of my crew and offered me complete access to the facilities. What I learned from this unique experience needs to be shared with the entire world. The technology at the South Pole Station certainly can do what it is presented as its primary purposes, and unfortunately, much more. The IceCube neutrino detector is presented as a passive listening device for the purposes of the science as presented. But I'm going to skip right through the chase, folks. I have provided documentation that proves that the 5,160, what they call DOMs, that are embedded in the ice can actually transmit at 2,047 volts each. That gives us a long list of things to consider. It is effectively a multifaceted directed energy weapons platform that I will list rapidly a few things that it can do. Vehicle detection. We're learning that these off-world craft, on-world craft, ours or other nations, are also emitting neutrinos. So this makes the South Pole Station effectively an air traffic control station for this new level of equipment that nobody's discussing. In the past, Gary McKinnon has hacked NASA, found the off-world fleet, the list of captains, and it's apparent that if we have faster-than-light vehicles moving throughout the system, we're going to need faster-than-light communications. This is that facility. 2010 to 2011, we converted from construction to operations and maintenance in both the elevated station. In 2010, I was selected to go down to the South Pole Station in Antarctica for an entire year by Raytheon Polar Services as an employee of a third-party contractor for the National Science Foundation. I function in a dual-role capacity as a tradesman and a firefighter. My responsibilities required me to be more informed than most of my crew and offered me complete access to the facilities. What I learned from this unique experience needs to be shared with the entire world. The technology at the South Pole Station certainly can do what it is presented as its primary purposes, and unfortunately, much more. The IceCube neutrino detector is presented as a passive listening device for the purposes of the science as presented. But I'm going to skip right through the chase, folks. I have provided documentation that proves that the 5,160, what they call DOMs, that are embedded in the ice can actually transmit at 2,047 volts each. That gives us a long list of things to consider. It is effectively a multifaceted directed energy weapons platform that I will list rapidly a few things that it can do. Vehicle detection. We're learning that these off-world craft, on-world craft, ours or other nations, are also emitting neutrinos. So this makes the South Pole Station effectively an air traffic control station for this new level of equipment that nobody's discussing. In the past, Gary McKinnon has hacked NASA, found the off-world fleet, the list of captains, and it's apparent that if we have faster-than-light vehicles moving throughout the system, we're going to need faster-than-light communications. This is that facility. 2010 to 2011, we converted from construction to operations and maintenance in both the elevated station and the detector array. Unfortunately, when they first fired it up, that was when we had the earthquakes in Christchurch, New Zealand. There was 2 incidental shots before they were able to target it correctly. This is an earthquake generating device as well. This is the weapons of war that we have to deal with now and what Raytheon's hiding. There's an ELF system at the South Pole Station that when I arrived, I was told it was off, dismantled, and completely defunct. In my work, I will rapidly just tell you, I had to figure out the circuitry for certain other repairs, and I found that this system is in fact completely energized, up and running, and being utilized with the other systems for nefarious purposes as well. The Atmospheric Research Observatory is in what we call the clean air sector. I witnessed myself a very powerful green laser shooting out of the top of this facility into the cosmos. This, I believe, is a secondary form of long-range communications and or a defense system. I am not saying that we need to be scared of anything that's out there, but please understand the military-industrial complex is happy to invest all of your money in alleviating their fears.
So we've talked about some characters like this guy in the past, guys like Stephen Greer. I think we saw a gentleman yesterday in one of the clips who's sort of similar. These characters who tend to orbit the UFO space have been around for a long time and have all this special access to certain people, or they were a part of some group, or they seem to know everybody and everything and have all the answers about everything, right? And they're going to give you all the answers if you just buy my book, right? These types of guys have been circling this community in this space for decades. It's nothing new. This guy, I think, is something different. I don't think he's one of those characters. This guy came up I want to say in the last few years, I remember seeing him on the Sean Ryan podcast. Say what you will about Sean Ryan, don't care. Focusing on this guy specifically, is what he's saying entirely true? I don't know, but I think he's worth listening to, right? So what he said was very specific. I was a part of a program that was through a third-party company that contracted with Raytheon that sent me to the North Pole. All of these things add up, right? And he's not saying I'm part of some secret government program that is recruiting psychics for a battle with space aliens, right? Which is some of what these goofy guys like Stephen Greer say, right? Like, not him specifically, just using him as a metaphor, but like, there's a lot of goofy claims where Project 7239 and psychic powers are real and we're fighting the demons. Like, that kind of goofiness is like that. Now you just disregard these people. Everything he said is potentially true, right? And probably verifiable. You could probably go and find this third-party company that was contracted through Raytheon. You could probably verify that Raytheon contracted them and probably contracted them for a project in Antarctica. And we know that Antarctica has this research facility and these underground rod things that he's talking about, these DOMs, exist. We know all of these things, the neutrino detectors. These are not conspiracies. It's not woo-woo stuff. It's all real. It's all confirmed. So the fact that it's so based in confirmed reality makes you go, I wonder, right? Now, from there, he starts making some very wild claims about it being to detect spacecraft, about shooting lasers into the cosmos. We don't know what that's for. That, again, is an instance where I really like the fact that he's not giving you an answer, right? When you see these other guys talk about it, they've got all the answers. They know everything, and they're going to tell you, what the tall Nordic whites had for breakfast, right, on Tuesday. They have every answer you could possibly want. This guy's just saying, hey, look, this is what I saw. I saw a laser shoot from a fucking, telescope thing off into space. I don't know what it's for. Maybe it's some type of defense tool. Maybe it's a communications tool. We don't know. I just saw the laser shoot in the sky. All right. That's interesting. What is that? What is going on there? Very bizarre. So I like the fact that he doesn't have all the answers. That to me is another indication of someone who's worth listening to. I don't have all the answers. And then, the other two claims about it being a detector for spacecraft is harder to wrap your head around, as well as the direct energy weapons causing earthquakes. Also harder to wrap your head around. The earthquake one, I wonder if it's intentional. Is it possible that was unintended consequence of this tool? Maybe that's possible. It's also possible it was very much intentional. I don't know. I'm not saying it one way or the other. I'm just saying those are the claims where you start to go, this is much harder to wrap my head around. But out of all the people that sort of surround the UFO conversation, this guy is one of the more compelling ones, in my opinion. He's speaking in a way that to me is suggestive of someone who's telling the truth and not just grifting or trying to make money or make himself into a social media personality. Because he's also kind of disappeared. I don't know if he's still making a lot of appearances. He came out, he gave a lot of appearances, and then he's kind of faded away. So again, another reason why I kind of tend to take him a little bit more seriously. I don't know that there's enough proof here to go, yeah, this is what's going on. But I definitely listen to what he's saying. He's not the first to make these claims, but it's definitely interesting. And I think the claims that he's making, nothing is, to me, out of the realm of possibility. Now, when you hear earthquake machine, I'm sure some people go, yeah, that's outside the realm of possibility, but I disagree. I think that, a lot of people don't realize we have weather machines. We do. We can make it rain. It's been happening for decades now. There's cloud seeding is definitely a thing. It's been happening all over Dubai and desert countries for a long time. This is definitely a reality. We can make rain. Does making rain mean we can make earthquakes? No, of course not. But I'm just saying that that is something that a lot of people also don't believe, that are completely unaware of. And it's 100% fact. It's not a conspiracy theory. You can go Google companies right now, and these companies exist. So if that's real, most people don't believe it. This potentially is along that same sort of sliding scale, just farther up the believability or unbelievability scale. I tend to be more open-minded to these kinds of possibilities and think that it's possible that these types of weapons or tools exist. I don't know that it's anywhere near proven or not really debatable. It's highly debatable. It's highly controversial, highly questionable. I just tend to leave the door open for its possibility. And I think anyone who doesn't do that is really naive, frankly. Like, these people who have all the answers, to me, it's like, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? You think you figured it out with Google? You got all the answers with Google. The CIA, the United States government, all these powerful tools and people can't hide things from you because you got an iPhone? That's what you think. To me, that's just extremely naive. So I think you have to leave the door open to these kinds of possibilities. Anyways, with that being said, I think I've rambled enough. What do you think below? Do you think these things are real? Do you think it's BS? Earthquake weapon, kind of wild, man. Kind of wild. What do you think about it? Do us a favor, drop a like, subscribe if you haven't. Drop a comment down below with your thoughts on all this stuff. I'd love to hear it. The engagement is extremely helpful at this stage in building the channel and very much appreciated. So with all that being said, thanks. We'll be back next time with another one. See you then.